Okay, today on the show we have Miss Alexis Aranda. This woman is incredible. I can't wait for you guys to hear her story. She is the brains behind the trades. She's a co-owner of Pure Plumbing that she owns with her husband. They are leaders in the Las Vegas plumbing trade, entrepreneurs, and she is a mother of three. She's had three kids while growing this company the last few years. Her mission is to help people feel fulfilled with their career in the trades, create leaders, help people work with their spouses, and balance their home and work life. And you guys, when I say they have grown this company, they literally started this company and have grown it to a $10 million business while having babies, juggling marriage, all of the things. I cannot wait for you guys to hear her story and all the tips that she has to offer. Get ready to take some notes. But really quickly, I want to remind you guys, today we have Content Confessionals getting started right now. This is a 4-week deep dive into the types of content that you need in order to establish yourself as an expert and a thought leader in your space, the formulas you need to convert more sales when it comes to writing your posts, and there are specific formulas to writing your posts in order to help you stand out in your industry. Most of you guys are just not being heard on Instagram because you blend in with everyone else. I'm also giving you a bonus training on your bio, how to be showing up and crafting a bio that causes you to stand out. And from there, we're doing 4 weeks. There's a live training every single week on a different type of post, different type of formula, and giving you tons of journal prompts for you to be writing out posts. Plus, there's a live group coaching call with me where you can say, hey, Joy, I want to ask your help for me specifically for my page, and I'm going to get my eyes on your page and help you with your stuff. If you are ready to level up and to start having your business be fun again and stop having to worry every single day about what you should post again, or not feeling creative, or feeling like you're just throwing spaghetti at the wall and not getting any actual sales, you need this group. When I learned these formulas, when I changed my content to these types of posts, I generated 6 figures in 6 months online, which was way more than my business had ever done in a whole year before that. Go on over to Instagram. The link is in my bio. I will see you in the group. All right. Welcome, Alexis, to the show.
Thank you, Joy, for having me. I've been an avid listener, so I'm so happy to be here.
Oh my gosh. Well, we can't wait to hear your story. Why don't you take us back and tell us how do you even get to this point of this huge, massive business and this company that you guys own together? Who is Alexis?
Awesome. Well, thank you, Joy. I want to start when I was a child. I always was really ambitious. I grew up in the west side of Chicago, and my family, we didn't have a lot of money. We had a lot of love, but there was always a lot of things that we couldn't afford, and I had to work hard to get it. And I decided when I was really young that I wanted to be wealthy. I wanted to have money. I wanted to be able to do the things that I wanted to do when I wanted to do them. And as a result, I started working when I was really young. I had just told you, Joy, I started riding horses and I would work for my horse trainer. I started babysitting for different kids on the block, and I would mother's helper. So even with the parents home, I would fold laundry. I would do anything I could to earn a little bit of extra money so I could buy the things that I wanted to do. So that strong work ethic kind of carried me through my life. When I was going to school, I was always working. And when I was in my early 20s, I met my husband. Now, that's a different story. The moment I met him, I knew that him and I were going to get married.
Aww.
Yeah, but it wasn't I wasn't at a point in my life where I wanted to get married. It was actually a point in my life where I had just gone through a really bad breakup. And I said, you know what? The next 6 months, I'm just focusing on me. And at that point, I was waitressing and I was going to school to become a teacher. And out of nowhere, I met this man that was like the man I had been journaling about, the man I wanted to marry. And when I met him, I knew right away that he was going to be my husband. And I actually told my sister, because my sister met him too. We go to my car and my sister says, wow, that guy, Andy, he's pretty good looking. And I said, you better back off, sis, because I'm going to marry him. Watch. And sure enough, I did. But right away, I didn't tell him that I was in love with him, that I wanted to have his kids, nothing like that. I said, I'm focusing on myself. I want to build a career. You focus on you. And then if it works out, it works out. And it did work out.
What did you want your career to be at the time?
At that time, I was pursuing a degree in education because I had gotten this undergraduate degree in business, and I had these great ambitions of being a fashion buyer and traveling all over Europe and, doing all the things, right? All these glamorous things with business. Well, I got a job doing accounts payable for a plastic manufacturer on the west side of Chicago. So it was far from glamorous. I was, matching purchase orders with invoices, and I was really at rock bottom. I was at a point in my life, and I remember driving to this job. I was in my early 20s, and I remember thinking that if I died tomorrow, what I'm doing right now with my life would not matter. So I kind of did everything I could at that job, and I actually ended up one morning, I just couldn't go. I called up my boss at the time, and I lied. I said I had been in a car accident and I wasn't going to be able to come in. And I vividly remember him being concerned, saying, Alexis, take care of yourself. When you're feeling better, come back. And I remember telling him, no, Jay, I'm never coming back. Now, I've never done that in my life. I've never quit a job unprofessionally, but that was my rock bottom point. I just couldn't do that. So at that point in my life, I realized that not only making money was important, but also having a purpose and helping people was really important to me. So I'm from a family of educators. So my parents were like, why don't you go back to school and become a teacher? And I've always loved kids. I've loved working with kids. So it just really fit. And I actually loved teaching. I did it for many years. Before we started our business, I was a teacher. But let's go backwards a little bit and let's talk about, when I met my husband. So when I met my husband, I was just at that point. I had just really found my purpose in going to school to become a teacher. I was waitressing. I was having a lot of fun. And I met my husband, and he was really entrepreneurial, this free spirit. He had a construction business. He was super handy. And like I said, right away when I met him, I knew, I'm going to marry that man. Now, again, I told him, hey, we got to work on our, you've got to become strong. I've got to become strong. And we both focused on ourselves for about 6 months. And during that time when we were just friends, he asked me if I would help him with his business. They were having trouble with the accounting. I had a background in accounting. So I started helping him create budgets, doing job costing. I did some of the accounting within QuickBooks for him. And then our relationship started getting more serious. And we decided at that point to let go of that business. And I really wanted to move out west. I grew up in Chicago. It's really gray. I love the sunshine. So I ended up getting a teaching job out here in Las Vegas, and my husband has family out here too. He finished up a project in Chicago and then shortly after moved to Las Vegas with me, and he had a background in service plumbing. So my husband is actually a 4th generation plumber. Everybody,
so cool.
Yeah, thank you. Everybody on the Aranda side is plumbers, and it's super cool. They have a family business that's been there in Santa Fe, New Mexico for, I think, a few hundred years now, maybe 200. I could be wrong on that, but it's been there for a very long time. But plumbing is not glamorous. My husband did not want to do plumbing. So when we moved to Las Vegas, it was the recession. It was 2009. There was no new construction. There was no building. And the only people that were hiring were service plumbing. And luckily, my husband had a background in that. He went to work quickly for a residential service plumbing business. And it's funny because my grandmother had always told us, me and all my cousins, somebody better marry a plumber. Somebody needs to marry a plumber, because she always had plumbing problems. And she had this house in northern Wisconsin. And, the person that had the biggest house in northern Wisconsin was the plumber. And she really planted that seed in my husband's head too, that, hey, you should do plumbing. You should get back into plumbing. He got back into plumbing. He worked for a company, I think for about 3 or 4 years. And during that time I was teaching, and then I ended up going back to school to get my MBA because I always wanted to have my own business. And it just made sense at that point. I was like, Andy, let's start our own plumbing business. And he, was kind of like, oh, I don't know. And I'm like, I'm telling you, we can make plumbing hot. We can make it cool. We can recruit people. We can make this business whatever we want to make it. So I finished my MBA, and then we got our plumbing license and we started this business. And it was exciting because the first year it was just my husband and an apprentice in a truck. It was just the two of them, and I was still teaching during the day. But then within a year, we had grown the company, and I finished out my year at the school district. I resigned, and then I was full-time with our business. And I've been, full-time ever since then.
And how old is your business now?
So we started in 2013.
Okay.
So this is our 7th year, and we've grown this business to a $10 million business this year.
Freaking huge. That's amazing.
Thank you, Joy.
Oh my gosh.
Exciting. It's been an amazing journey.
Was it just a straight, you've always grown, or did you guys have ups and downs?
It was pretty exciting. In the first 3 years, we doubled our revenue. So like the first year we did 500,000, then $1 million, then $2 million. And then now it's definitely been a straight trajectory, but it hasn't been like we haven't doubled every year.
Totally.
But we've just consistently made growth. And there's definitely been mistakes that we've made, things that have come up, but we've just really committed to progressing no matter what. I think this year is a perfect example. When COVID first hit, we were like, okay, what is this? And, the first few days, I just remember my husband and I like, oh my gosh, what is going to happen? But I really, really grounded in my morning routines, meditation, prayer, journaling, podcasts, reading. And because I'm so grounded in that, I didn't let all the outside negative energy affect me. I was really like in my bubble, in my zone, and just really thinking, how is this happening for us? How is this happening for us? And it's actually been amazing. I mean, the first month, I think in March, we definitely did not hit our sales goal. I think we were like $300,000 short of what we should have done. But that was the only month. Then we were like, okay, April, we just went back at it, hit our sales goal. And for us, it's been an amazing opportunity because a lot of our competitors did get caught in the fear, and they started downsizing. They laid people off. They didn't do as much advertising, and we just went full speed ahead. I mean, we purchased 6 vehicles, in 3 months. We added 10 team members. So we just committed that this was going to really be a positive thing for us, and it has been.
Okay. So let's dig into that, because most people, when they get into business, they don't have that kind of belief, right? Or the morning routine or all the mindset work. And I'm guessing you didn't grow up that way. I'm guessing you did not see that from your parents.
No.
And where did you learn, like the personal development side?
I've always really loved professional and personal growth. Like I've always been into Zig Ziglar and reading different motivational quotes. So that's kind of like been in my DNA for a while.
When you say always, did you come out of the womb doing this?
Good point. No, I think in my early 20s, that's really when it started. Is I always had these crazy dreams for my life. Like I did not want to live in the same place where I grew up. I just didn't want to settle. Like I wanted to have multiple houses. I wanted to have horses. I wanted to be a millionaire. So I knew that I needed to think differently, or, I needed to really get uncomfortable.
Did people give you a hard time for wanting those things,
Oh, absolutely.
including your family?
Absolutely. I vividly remember when I told my dad I was resigning from the school district because our business was big enough and I needed to be there full time to help facilitate the growth. He was like, "No, you're not ready. You're not ready." Because my parents both always,
Yes.
were educators. They had that stable income. And granted, they've done very well for themselves, but they followed the safe path.
Yes, yes.
And I was breaking away from that.
So when you were a kid, you were like, I want to be wealthy. I want to have a lot of money. Was your family like, what? Like, who the heck do you think you are?
Oh, absolutely. I really didn't talk to them much about it. I would like journal about it, and I found like old journals where I would talk about I want to have lots of houses. I don't want to stress about money. But I really didn't talk to my family about it because, you know, money was a super uncomfortable topic in my household.
Uh-huh.
It was like you didn't really want to talk about money. Money was really stressful. There was never enough money. And if you wanted something, or if I wanted something, I learned, okay, I'm going to work and figure out how I can get that, rather than asking anybody, because guaranteed if I asked for it, it was going to be like, no.
Okay. So you, it sounds like, have done a lot of money mindset work.
Yes, that's actually what I was going to touch on, Joy, and even when we first started our business, it's funny because my husband likes to laugh and tell the story. When we first started our business, I was still teaching, and my husband was like, well, I want to advertise on Yelp. And I was like, well, how much is it? And he's like, well, it's going to be $250 a month, right?
Uh-huh.
And I was like, what? That's crazy. We're not going to pay $250 a month, and I really had to work on that money mindset. And we ended up doing it, and we ended up really growing. A lot of our business growth has come from Yelp and come from these social media avenues that have reviews. Like that's huge for service companies. So I'm so glad that he was like, hey, we're going to do this. And I was like, eventually, yes. But I've had to do a ton of work on my money mindset because I was really stuck in that scarcity mindset that, I was scared to spend money. I was scared that, money was going to run out. I was scared that we weren't going to make money. And I really, really had to do a lot of work on that. And that, when I really started to work on my money mindset, that's when our business became a multi-million-dollar business. Yeah. We had, done like $500,000 and we did $1 million. And it was like, I was still stuck in that, oh, I don't want to spend money, or we didn't have a coach yet, or we were just really, we didn't want to hire a lot of people. But once I really worked on that and said, no, the more money I spend, the more money comes back to me. Now, don't get me wrong. You have to do it in a responsible way. I'm not saying, go buy clothing or purses or material items you don't need. But I'm always 100% all about investing money in yourself, whether it's getting a coach, hiring someone to help you with your social media. Me surrounding myself with coaches has really made the difference in our business.
When did you guys get your first coach?
So we got our first coach when I was pregnant with my first son, and my son is going to be 5. So pretty quick. I mean, I think maybe we went 1 or 2 years without a coach, but then it was like, okay, I had never run $1 million business. I really didn't know, and it was one of those things where I was like, wow, God is really showing up and our dreams are happening. And I don't really know how to run $1 million business yet. I know I can figure it out, but I'd rather hire somebody who has been there, done that can help me and that can help me kind of navigate the roadblocks that are going to come up. So
Was your husband always on the same page with personal development?
this is a good question, Joy. He would like going to like the events, right? The like, hey, let's go to an event, let's get pumped up. But as far as getting a coach, he was like, I don't know, Alexis. And even now, I'm really the one that does a lot of the coaching. I'm really the one that meets with the coach that says, this is going on. What do you suggest? He's a lot more of the creative and he's the visionary, where I'm within our relationship, the integrator, and I'm like, okay, so, now we're at 10 million. How do we get to 100 million? I'm like the one that's the more strategy. So for me, a coach was absolutely essential. Yes and no. He loves the events, but as far as like working one-on-one with a coach, he likes more free time in his day, which is fine, because he's, like I said, more creative. And then he also, he's the technical, I don't know plumbing. I don't claim to know plumbing. So he also a lot of times will end up going out into the field to troubleshoot if somebody doesn't know what to do. It's more valuable for him to have that flexibility in his schedule.
Totally.
Where me, no one's going to call me to go to a water heater because they know not to call me.
Yeah. And it sounds like he really appreciates like networking and going to a lot of events for networking.
Absolutely. And he's really great at building relationships, where I'm a little bit more like, even within our mastermind, I feel like I haven't done a great job of building relationships because I'm more of an introvert naturally. So that takes and I think too with social media, that's one of the things that I think is my own mental block, is that I am more of an introvert. So I'm like, oh, I don't know if I want to like do a story right now, or, and again, I think that's my own self-sabotage, but yeah, that's kind of our business relationship.
Mm-hmm. So you mentioned earlier the safe route and your parents wanting to go the safe route.
Yes.
Can you expand on that and what you mean by the safe route?
Absolutely. So the safe route for my life would have looked like me becoming a school administrator, maybe a principal, maybe eventually working my way up to like a board level position. And I would have been great at that. I really think I probably would have been great at that. However, I would not be able to have the kind of impact that I have on people right now if I would have gone the safe route. Within our business, one of the main goals of our business is to bring respect back to the trades. So for my husband, he didn't want to become a plumber because there's such a negative stigmatism with becoming a plumber. And even with the majority of the trades, like you don't hear a lot of people say, hey, I want to go into construction. It's usually they're not good at school, they don't go to college, so what's left? Oh, well, I'm going to do something in construction. So for us, we really wanted to focus on bringing respect back to the trades, making people proud to be a plumber, to be an electrician, to be a carpenter, because we need these things. Yeah. And don't get me wrong, I'm all about people going to college if that's their path. Right. But not everybody has to go to college. Correct. In order to be able to provide for their family. So for us, our mission is to bring respect back to the trades, to make people proud to be plumbers, to be electricians, to be welders, and to bring attention to these trades because there's a real need for skilled technicians in these areas.
And I think most people don't realize the kind of money they can make in them.
Oh, no. Yeah, absolutely. I think that's a huge piece too, is people think, well, I need to go to college because then I can make money. Well, the reality is the majority of the plumbers on our team make six figures. And Don't get me wrong, they work long hours. It's a hard job, but they're able to provide an amazing life for their family.
Totally. And they all have the option to start their own plumbing company, just like you.
Absolutely.
I think most people don't have the long-term vision to realize what could be possible.
Absolutely.
So I'm curious if you could go back and build this business with like the mindset you have now and the beliefs you have now, what would you have done differently?
Ooh, that's a really good question, Joy. Okay, so to be totally honest, I would have spent more time in the beginning building leaders. What I mean by that is, and Joy and I were talking before the podcast started, right now we're in a situation where I'm still really involved in the day-to-day operations, which is it's fine for now. But the reality is if I continue to be this involved in the day-to-day operations, it's going to hinder our growth. So I would have from the start created more leaders and not been an information hog. And what I mean by that is so often leaders of businesses keep all the information for themselves, right? They're scared to, communicate what the profit margin should be, or they're scared to say, just different information. So I really make a point to be super transparent with our team that like, hey, we're doing this because we need better training so we can have more technicians that can run water heater calls or whatever it is. So really being more transparent in the why we're doing things and really investing in creating more leaders, because the more leaders we have within the organization, the quicker we can grow, and the more we can grow, we can have sustainable growth, because you can have crazy, messy growth, but if your team isn't trained and they don't really know what they're doing, you might have one year where it spikes and then it goes down. And for us, we were seeing that in like a month to month basis, right? We might have a month where we hit it out of the park and it's like, oh my gosh, we did, $200,000 over our sales goal. And then we would tank. And the next month it was like really low. And what we realized was we weren't training leaders at that point. We hit a couple home runs, but we didn't have like the process yet on how to consistently hit the home runs.
So does that mean you would have hired people faster too?
Absolutely. I would have hired people in like management and leadership roles. So my husband and I could work more on the business and not so much in the business.
Well, because I was going to say, I recently heard someone talking about how most business owners start from the ground up, right? So they start with, they have to plow their way to a certain point to be able to hire people. And this guy was saying the better way is actually get a loan or get some sort of investment and hire the team first.
Totally.
And then build from there. And I was like, whoa, you never hear that.
I could not agree more, especially right now, because there is so much incentives to take out loans. And I know this isn't your traditional Dave Ramsey approach. And I love Dave Ramsey. Don't get me wrong. I love Dave Ramsey. I've studied him. And there was a time in my life where I did everything the Dave Ramsey way, where I paid cash, all the things. That works. But when you are trying to go somewhere where other people have not gone, the everyday Dave Ramsey no debt approach will not take you there. Correct. It won't. So I would totally agree with that. If I were to start today, I would take out a loan. I would get the people in place to be the general manager, to be the call center manager, to be the service manager. So that way I could focus on growing the business and I would be less working in the business.
Amazing. I love hearing that.
I think that also, Joy, goes into having faith and really believing in yourself. I think so often people say, well, yeah, I believe in myself. But then you say, well, why don't you go take out a loan? They're like, oh, no, I couldn't do that. If you know in your heart that this is meant for you and that your business is your vehicle to make your dreams happen, you have no choice but to get that loan and to invest in yourself, because it will. I am living proof that it will pay off.
Oh my gosh, I love that you said that, because I say that to people all the time. I say, when you've truly actually committed to your vision, you'll leap. You'll invest before knowing or seeing the physical. And that if you're not willing to, you don't, that's a belief problem.
Absolutely. There's 100% some limiting belief that maybe it's very deep down that you don't want to address, but it's definitely there. I mean, because think about it. People take out loans for cars, for houses, for vacations. I mean, all the things people do. And if you really believe in your business and you won't take out a loan for that, I don't know. I think there's something deeper.
You know, that's so true. People take out what, like $500,000 loans for a house,
Oh, crazy.
assuming that they'll be able to pay that off in the next 30 years.
Yeah.
That's a lot of money to bet on your day job.
Absolutely.
Like, why not bet that on yourself?
Absolutely, Joy. I could not agree more. And I think, I think people get so rooted in the Dave Ramsey approach that, all debt is bad.
Yeah.
And I don't agree. Some debt is bad, absolutely. But debt, investing in yourself, there's no better investment than in yourself.
Yes, you're speaking my language. I loved how you just listed off one of your mission statements for your company is bringing respect back to the trades.
Yes.
Can you talk about mission statements and having like a mission for your company, even starting
Absolutely.
out?
Yeah. So, when you are starting to create something from ground zero, scratch, you need to have a really clear vision of what you want to create, and it has to excite other people other than just you. So you've got to really rally the people around you and get them enlisted in that mission and that vision. And you've got to get really good at casting the vision. So for us in the beginning, it was my husband, he had an apprentice, and then we slowly started building team members. And we had to really get them excited because nobody knew who we were. There were other big companies in town that had huge advertising budgets that had been around for years. So people were taking a risk by coming and working for us. But our thing was, hey, we want to make you feel good about doing plumbing. And our goal has always been to go the extra mile with our team members. And what I mean by that is the first mile is everybody's got to get paid. They've got to get paid the correct amount for their hours. They've got to get paid. But the second mile is our goal is to make your life better all around, whether you feel proud to work at a company that's, does the right thing and that we respect the trades, and then also that your wife is proud and that you have a better relationship because you work here and we're all about family and being involved in your kids' lives. And because we are so invested in personal development, that then bleeds down to our team members and we get them involved. We do vision casting with them. And what we tell all of them is this business is all of our vehicle to make our dreams happen, whether it be they want to buy a house or they want to buy a car or they want to take a trip to Disney. We talk to them about how can we do that? How can we help you make that happen? And ultimately, they make it happen. We're just here to pull it out of them. Well, what is it that you want? In our call center, we have a vision board, and everybody has up, what it is that they're working on. And it's exciting because we all motivate each other. And it's cool because we moved to this new location, I think a year ago, maybe a year and a half ago. And when we went to take down the vision board in the call center, it was cool because everybody was like, well, I needed to update that because I achieved that vision. I bought the house. I got the car. I went on the trip. So it's exciting.
I love that. Wow. What an amazing community that you guys have created. You said you have to get really good at casting the vision and getting other people enlisted, enrolled in your vision. And that again reflects your own belief. Because if you don't have the belief in your vision, how can you get others to buy into that belief? And I would say the same thing goes even for not just building a team, but recruiting clients.
Yes.
People always buy into your own belief. So what is something that people can do to start growing their own vision and their own belief for their lives?
I love this, Joy. This is something that I'm so passionate about. You really have to spend time with yourself. And I know, Joy, you're super rooted in your morning routine. And even if you're not a morning person, if you're like, okay, mornings aren't for me, then figure out a time within your day that you can just get really quiet. And before I even knew that I was meditating, I was just getting really quiet and like creating an image in my head, that like, what is it that I wanted my life to look like? And I take this for granted because I've done it for years, but I realize most women don't do this. And I specifically like women in their early 20s. I have a few women on my team that are in their early 20s. And recently I noticed that they were just kind of depressed. And, one of the ladies I pulled into my office and I'm like, what's going on? Are you okay? And we start talking. And literally I realized she's at this point in her life that she's like, doesn't know what she wants to do in the next stage of her life. And so I really want to encourage everybody to get really clear on the woman they want to become, whether it is a businesswoman or, somebody that works from home and, is able to be the ultimate mom at home and still have income coming in. Or if you want to work outside of the home, whatever it is, your image for your life, get really clear on the woman you want to become. How does she dress? What does she eat?
Yep.
How does she talk? What kind of energy does she bring into the room? And become that person. I mean, the reality is we every day have a choice on who we want to become and the energy that we want to bring into the room. And it's just deciding that you want to become that person.
Mm-hmm. And where there is no vision, the people perish.
Yeah. Joy, you're so good at this on every day, like, getting on Instagram, casting your vision, and just being super clear on who you are and who you want to help. And it's so amazing. So just really getting clear on who you want to become because that person you want to become, you are that person. Yeah. I think so often people are like, well, I can't show up as her until I make $100,000. No, it's already coming to you. You need to step into that woman. You are her.
That's imposter syndrome right there. We have these things in our head that say you have to have this in order to show up this way. So if you went back and you guys were starting from scratch and you didn't have the $10 million business, would you show up as the $10 million business owner?
Yes.
100%.
Yeah. Well, I would be showing up as the $100 million.
Oh, yeah.
That's who I need to be. Yes, absolutely. And it's super important to spend that time with yourself, and whether it be journaling. I mean, I'm a huge fan of journaling. I think that's the best way to do it, is just start writing it down, the woman that you want to become, And I even tell this to, my young women that aren't married, like, it's crazy, but I did this years ago with the man I wanted to marry. Like, who was the man I wanted to marry? And that's how right away when I met my husband, I knew that was him. We just had this like strong heart connection, and I had known that the man I wanted to marry was going to be handy. He was going to be entrepreneurial. He was going to have fair skin and dark hair. And so when I met him, I was like, oh, this is him. This is the man that I envisioned.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Okay. So could you give everybody one of your favorite journal prompts, or do you have a journal prompt or just an idea for them?
I love that. Okay. So I actually have my journal right here. So this is one that, there's so many. I think the one that if I'm feeling stuck and I'm not clear, the journal prompt that always gets me is, who do I need to become? And I just sometimes just start listing it out, like here's some of mine: more loving, more accepting, being vulnerable, But then the other thing is, if you're somebody that has a business, and even if you've just started, this is something, Joy, that one of the speakers at our mastermind talked about, and it really resonated with me, is what is the energetic imprint of your business?
Oh, I love that.
That was super powerful for me. And I came back and I spent some time with my office team just talking about like, what is the energetic imprint of Pure Plumbing? That's the name of our business. And we all just really listed what it was. And it was super cool because a lot of it is directly in alignment with our core values.
Oh, I love that. Thank you for sharing
Yeah.
those. So tell everybody, you've got this huge business that's going to 100 million, but what is next on the horizon for you?
Well, I really want to work with you, Joy, because I really want to build out my personal brand. I am at a place where I've spent a lot of time building Pure Plumbing and I love this business and it's amazing. But I really want to empower women to really chase their passion and get into what might be non traditional women's roles. So, for instance, in the space of residential contracting, it's all men. It's men that write books, it's men that are the guest speakers. And there's so much value in bringing our feminine energy to the table. You know, my husband will even say it, like he'll jokingly say, well, you know, Alexis's third eye saw that coming, because I will have like some intuitions and I'm like, oh, this is happening. And initially my husband would be like, you're crazy. That's not happening. And sure enough, you know, there was enough instances where I was like, I didn't even have to say I told you so. I'd just give him a look and he'd be like, oh my God, you just said that that was going to happen. And I'm like, yeah. So
Uh-huh.
I just want to bring women to the table in different positions that we don't traditionally see women. So really building my own brand in that area.
And you're going to start a podcast.
Oh, yes. I would love to start a podcast to talk about just leadership and building businesses. That's what I'm
Oh my
really
gosh.
passionate about.
I can't wait. You're such a natural, so it's going to be amazing. We will for sure have to have you back on when you do that.
Thank you, Joy.
So, last question, and then we will wrap up. If there's somebody out there that's in like their rock bottom moment right now, right? Like they're realizing, wait, I don't think this is it, right? Like I've arrived, but this isn't actually it. And it sounds to me like you were feeling trapped a little bit in your life, right?
Mm-hmm.
What would you say to them to like keep going or to like have some encouragement in where they're at right now?
You have control and you can always change where you're at. That is the beauty of this life, is you are not stuck. You have a decision every day to make changes. And whether you are like me and you're in maybe a corporate dead end job that you feel like I'm just in a cubicle pushing papers and you feel trapped, you can change that. You can make a pivot in a day. Now, I also think that maybe you're in a situation where you need that income coming in. And so if you need to keep doing that job, but on the same time, during your free time, you can create that side hustle, whether it be through multi-level marketing or building out your own brand. But you are never stuck. The only place you could be stuck is in your mind. So just really visualizing, journaling, and just taking steps to what feels good. As cheesy as that sounds, you will know when you are in the right direction. You know, so often I think people are like, well, I don't know if this is right. Well, then it's probably not right, you know. Now
Totally.
don't get me wrong. Don't get me wrong. There's not like, I love my job now and I love this business we've created. There's definitely things that I do on a day-to-day basis that aren't my favorite thing to do, and I still
Yes.
have to do them. So don't get me wrong. It's not every day I'm just meditating and, you know, speaking life to people. I still, you know, have to pay bills and do accounting stuff, but it feels right.
Yeah.
So I think really just getting in touch with yourself.
Oh, I could not agree more. Well, thank you so much for being on today and for sharing your story. I took so many notes. Actually, I'm like, I need to go talk to Peter about some of these things with our team and implementing some of these things. Tell everybody where they can find you.
Well, you can find me on Instagram. It's my name, Alexis Aranda 16. And you can also, if you wanted to look up my business, we're Pure Plumbing Las Vegas. You can follow us on Instagram as well.
And I think you guys are hiring too, or you're expanding.
Absolutely. Yes, we
Yeah,
are always hiring.
I love that. Thank you so much. And everybody, if you love this episode, don't forget, take a screenshot, share it out there, tag Alexis and I, tell us what your favorite takeaway was. And if you know someone where you're like, oh my gosh, they would love to work at Pure Plumbing, or you're like, oh my gosh, this episode would help them so much, share it with a friend, because sharing is caring. We all know that. All right. Have an awesome day.